What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another deck profile here on TCGU University for the card game UniVersus. My name's Tam, and today I'm going to be showing you Jeff's Super Skullman 33, the sickest superhero in the game. Well, yeah, I'll say that. The sickest superhero in the game. If you like this deck, make sure that you go out to the Soul Calibur DLC matches playlist that we have here out on the channel and see the deck in action. So, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the profile. All right, so Super Skullman 33. He's a really rad superhero, and if you don't recognize him, he's actually from the Jasco property of Red Horizons. If you haven't seen one of my deck profiles here on the channel, the way that it works is, as opposed to just reading the card verbatim, word for word, I'm going to take and I'm going to explain the point of the deck. What's the deck trying to do, per se? And so let's talk about what Super Skullman does. Super Skullman is a 5-hand size character, and so he starts the game with a very low hand size, and he has a static on him that says every time that you have a Super Skullman attached, he gets +1, he's got +1 hand size. And so by the end of it, his 5-hand size could end up being an 8-hand size because of how it works. And an 8-hand size character with 32 life is way better than a 5-hand size character with 32 life. And then the other thing that he wants to do is take and make his cards not count towards progressive so that he gets to play the big long strings once he is an 8-hander, or he gets to disrupt my opponent's foundation, or my opponent's staging area, by adding the top card of my by adding a foundation from my staging area to the top of my deck, and then one of theirs to the top of theirs. So it does help both of our checks, but it debuilds them by 1, guarantees my check, and sometimes that's just enough to clutch out the game. So obviously we're playing 3 additional Super Skullman 33s because being an 8-hander is way cooler than being a 5-hander. I'm gonna put them all underneath him. Look at that. So, attacking-wise, the easiest way currently to stack 4 characters is by playing the Gauges keyword. And the best Gauge attack in the game is Moon Ritual Dance. It's a 7-low for 2 that gets to build you an additional card or pick up a card, and then it has Gauge 2. And so on turn 1, on turn 2, these Moon Ritual Dances are really, really strong. The quicker that Super Skullman can get out his additional 3 characters, he'll just run over my opponent, because having 8 hand size and 32 life, even 8 hand size, like 25 life would be insane. But the fact that like we can scale up to this 32, absolutely nuts. Really, really strong card. It does have a 2-check though, so be careful. Be careful. Up next, we're playing Akimbo. So Akimbo is an extra draw card. It turns our 5 to 8 hand size into like an 8 to 14 hand size. This just says that I get to draw additional cards, and with Super Skullman, I want to check my 5 and then commit a foundation and make the Akimbo not count towards progressive. This wants me to play more cards, making my Akimbo free. I just want to see how many cards I can play into my card pool, and this just says draw more cards to play more cards, to draw more cards to play more cards. The embodiment of the all symbol. How many cards can I play on my turn? Up next, we've got 4 Nutcracker, a little pricey, but super worth it inside of this deck. Enhance, add this foundation, add a foundation from your discard pile to your card pool. You get to draw an additional card. Once again, I want to see how many cards I can play. It gets a bunch of extra damage. We get to guarantee some checks, and just like build a bunch of extra stuff. There's a really neat combo that we have inside of here with a Nutcracker that I will get to as soon as we get to the foundation that does it. We're playing 4 Keiko's Slap because nothing says not counting towards progressive like -2 difficulty to the next one. And so I can play a couple of attacks here. Keiko, Nutcracker, Keiko's Slap. Have my 2 Nutcrackers not count towards progressive. Make my Keiko's not count towards progressive. I've got 3 cards into my card pool, and then my next one doesn't gets -2. Normally the way that Keiko's Slap works is it wants to take and make the next one does not count these 2, but because we have Super Skullman making these not all count, and then another -2 means that whenever I play my main kill card for Spirit Shotgun, it's just that much easier. Super Skullman is like the perfect Spirit Shotgun deck because he does 2 things. Number 1, he makes his cards not count towards progressive, and number 2, he stacks a 5 on top so that now Spirit Shotgun is just played for free. Like I said, Nutcracker, Keiko's Slap into Shotgun. If I committed my 3 foundations in order to make these not count towards progressive, and then from there, stacked a 5 on top, this thing is just going to guarantee pass and then get a bunch of damage because of how the deck works. So Spirit Shotgun is just the best tool that Super Skullman could have gotten inside of 2020. Up next, so there's the attack. It's a very straightforward, very simple line when it comes to when it comes to playing the deck. I want to Spirit Shotgun you, but I have to make sure I get the most value out of stuff. So up next, we're playing 3 Throw It Down. This card shares 2 symbols with Skullman, so it gets an extra 2 damage, an extra 2 damage off of the shotgun. So plus 4 damage, plus another 3 damage. Lets you draw another card. Doesn't count towards progressive. It kind of does everything Super Skullman wants to. It's got a really gnarly 0 high block, and it cancels damage abilities that would increase the damage of an attack. Just cancel it. Relevant card. Does it need to be in this deck? I'm not positive. That's for you to decide. Jeff obviously thought so, but you know, I'm now editorializing the deck profile as opposed to just explaining. From here, I've got 4 Let's Cut Loose. Let's Cut Loose is just to draw an additional card. Maybe I'm an 8-hander and I want to be a 10-hander. Let's play Let's Cut Loose, and I get to draw an additional card, so it replaces this card as well as find a foundation. Or, even better, we get to take and I'll just lay it out here, we get to take a foundation that I have built or added in with Nutcracker, and then Let's Cut Loose and build it back down. And then from there, Super Skullman, I'll commit it and so on and so forth and just push. It's just a big combo extender card. Very, very relevant. I think it's needed at a 4 inside of this deck, for sure. This is not one of those editorializing. You have to have this card. Up next, we've got the foundations, and I sorted out the foundations more of into their jobs as opposed to just laying them out all willy-nilly. So the main thing, the coolest thing about Super Skullman is he gets to increase his hand size, right? And so a Moment of Rest says that this attack gains gauge X equals printed damage. It's super possible just to play a shotgun and give it the gauge 7 and then get its damage up to 14, and now I'm going to gauge in my character. It's possible for you to do that. Just play a couple foundations and stack an extra Skullman. And unlike a lot of the other 7th cross characters, Super Skullman is one of those characters that even just gauging one character in a game is worth just going for. So very, very relevant card. It's also one of the best cards to build in with Moondance Ritual. I'll play the Moondance, having this in my discard pile. I'll add it in. I'll gauge 2. I'll flip this, give it gauge 1. It's a 7 low for 2. That's now going to gauge it twice. Now I'm a 7 hand size character with 32 life. So sometimes this happens on turn 1. If you're just the craziest, luckiest person in the whole game. Up next, we've got 1 Wandering Pirate, because we're now onto the section of how do I make my things count for free. So Wandering Pirate says response after it is committed, ready another foundation. So the way that we play this is I have a face down foundation. I've got Wandering Pirate. I'll enhance on Super Skullman, commit this. My card doesn't count towards progressive. Enhance on my next attack on Wandering Pirate, commit it. Next one doesn't count, and then I'll respond and ready this, and then I'll commit this. My next one doesn't count. Look, I used 1 card and readied it 3 times. At the start of my opponent's turn, I'll ready this foundation, respond, and then ready it another one. Look, I wasn't punished at all for having these cards not count towards progressive. So now my opponent's turn doesn't count. Readies doesn't count. Super good. I'm gonna double check and make sure that happens. Commit 1, choose 1 card in your card pool. It doesn't count. Wowzers, that's really, really solid. So like this 1 card by itself just says that 3 cards just don't count towards progressive. Relevant. Incredibly, incredibly relevant. In the same vein, we've got Endless Determination. It says response once per turn after you commit it for a cost, ready it. And so with Super Skullman, hey, I'll just commit this. Response, it'll ready itself back up, and then I'll commit it again. So this just counts. It's not quite as good as Wandering Pirate, but it is a 2/5 with a 3 high block, so you can't really argue with those stats. Up next, we're playing Triple Bakery Poster Girl. Bakery Poster Girl is just a defensive card, and it's playable while committed, so I have it in here because it doesn't feel bad committing this card for Super Skullman's ability. So, like, I've got 1 of each of these. Maybe the first thing I do is actually commit the Bakery Poster Girl, just in case I need to use it, you know? And it is part of the please don't kill me camp of this, but, like, we're pretty much there as well. We're playing 4 Sense of Morals, because this card is also playable while committed. It does not feel bad whenever I Super Skullman it. And it says check a 4 ready a foundation that's been committed due to my opponent's effect. This is unbelievably strong just because of how Super Skullman works. Whenever I take and ready my if they stun me and I'll commit the Sense of Morals just because it's on the board, I'll check with the Sense of Morals and ready it. I'll then Super Skullman, commit back my Sense of Morals, and say that my card doesn't count as progressive. If I have another Sense of Morals, I'll just ready the Sense of Morals back up. And so every single attack, I'm just going to commit and then ready it back up, commit and ready it back up. And it's useful because my cards are no longer counting towards progressive, and so it just means I get to block everything. Basically, nothing counts towards progressive off of commit and then ready. You're not allowed to stun Super Skullman while this card's on the board. You're just not allowed to, or else he just gets to run rampant. Up next, we've got Triple Burning with Revenge, and this is that cool card that I was talking about when it comes to using Nutcracker, right? So Nutcracker Burning Revenge says your attack gets 2 damage, and you get to build it face down in your staging area committed. So if I play the Nutcracker, I'll add this card into my card pool and draw a card, and then I'll build it down, then use Super Skullman to stack it back on top of my deck. I didn't lose anything. Part of the issues with Super Skullman is, especially as a 5-hander, he can run out of foundations really quick or not utilize his foundations in the best of his ability. But having the Nutcracker play to build in Burning and then stack it to guarantee, I don't know, your shotgun on your next one is super relevant. Really strong card. It's a sneaky tool that he got access to. More onto the please kill them. We've got 4 Folktale Storyteller. This just says I get to be a little bursty inside of my turn. Maybe I'm an 8-hander and I build these cards. Well, now I am going to just sacrifice a card from my hand and trade it as a resource to a card on my board. Committing in order to shuffle back into the deck is not super relevant. It can be, but it's not what it's there for. But just building things down, stopping breaker, so on and so forth. Relevant card. Up next, we've got double 1 with nature. This card just pushes damage through by discarding a card. Since we're going to end up being an 8-hander anyways, this card just says that I get to. This card just says that I'm going to be discarding the foundations that I have as opposed to the attacks in order to just push a little extra damage through. Very relevant card. One of the strongest cards in the game. It's going to be real sad when it leaves. Up next in the we're going to talk about cards that keep us alive, good defensive and disruptive cards. We've got Kieran Soul. Kieran Soul just says if I block this thing, gets -1 speed for each character in my staging area. I've got 4, -4 speed, very relevant. As well as if I block it, I'll take no damage. Super good. Playing double unpredictable movement. Movement says enhanced commit, it gets -2 speed. One of the easiest ways to die is just not being able to make 1 or 2 clutch blocks, and this card just helps me out with that. If my opponent is playing a charge, it says -3 instead. Very irrelevant effect. It's just not worth it. Still in the please don't kill me, we've got Protecting the Protector. One of the saddest ways to beat Super Skullman is to bang him so that I can't run this big string by committing cards and stacking and erasing your board. And so this stops not only my shotguns and Nutcrackers and Akimbos from being sealed, but it stops Super Skullman or any destruction or flipping. As a 5-hand size character, it's still super relevant to make sure that I don't, to make sure that I don't just die. Up next, I've got double Pursuing a Vendetta. I do start the game as a 5-hander, and having my foundations leave is very relevant. And maybe this is the thing to toss the Wandering Pirate in, right? If they try to make one of my foundations leave, I'll flip, and I've got a good Skullman target to commit, and then I'll add in the Wandering Pirate, and then I just get to go off next turn. And then my last card is Double Marrying Age. It's very similar to Sense of Morals when it comes to if my opponent readies one of their cards, I'll ready one of mine. And if none of mine can be readied, but they will be because I get to do Super Skullman commit stuff. If none of them can be readied, I'll just get to add a card in, a lot like Folktale Storyteller. It just gets to help me build out. It's a really unique tech piece. Does it need to be in the deck? I don't know if it necessarily needs to be, but it's certainly flavorful enough, and it works well enough inside of the deck to warrant a spot. All right, you guys, thank you much for watching the Super Skullman 33 deck profile by Jeff. If you like the deck, make sure you check out the matches, like I said, on the Soul Calibur DLC playlist here out on the channel. And if you want to talk to Jeff or anybody else about the Super Skullman 33 deck, leave us a comment down below or join Patreon to have full-length discussions inside of our Discord. It's just $1. We'll see you out there. So for all of us here at TCG University, thank you very much for watching, and stay learned.